All right, I think we're going to get started. Welcome again. My name is Rachel Schaefer. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Policy and Advocacy Manager for Cascade Bike Club. And we're excited to have you with us today and as well for the rest of this 5-day virtual event. And we're thrilled to see folks from so many communities around the state and beyond. We would like to start with the land acknowledgement. This summit is virtual and those participating are joining us from many lands. We acknowledge the land Cascade Bicycle Club sits on today as the traditional home of the Duwamish, Tulalip, Muckleshoot, and Suquamish tribal nations. If you don't know whose land you're on, you can look in the chat in a minute where you'll find a link to a map you can use to look up your place on the land. Without these communities, we would not have access to this environment. We take the opportunity to thank the original caretakers of this land who are still here. And we'd also like to note that we are recording this session and it will be available after following the summit. So the summit is hosted by Cascade Bicycle Club and Washington Bikes, two sister statewide organizations with a shared vision of bicycling for all. Cascade serves bike riders of all ages and abilities throughout Washington state, educating new riders, advocating for safe places to ride, and holding events and rides. Washington Bikes advocates for bicyclists' rights, endorses political candidates, holds officials accountable, and works to shape policies that make bicycling safe and accessible for all. And we'd also like to thank our sponsors whose contributions have enabled us to bring together 15 panels with expert speakers and with registration fee free for all attendees. So thank you to our sponsors, Amazon and the Washington State Department of Transportation. And now for our format today, we're going to be hearing from 3 panelists, Charlotte Claybrook, Kaylin Henley, and Carrie Wilhelm. And the description for the session is experts from the Safe Routes to School program provide an overview of the current statewide landscape, latest changes and emerging opportunities. Using interactive Miro boards, discussions, and polling, attendees will participate in a conversation on how to enhance and build greater considerations for equity into the program today and into the future. So after this introduction, we'll have it says 50 minutes, we'll probably do 40 minutes for the panel to speak and then try to keep the last 10 minutes for questions from you all, the audience. You're encouraged to ask those questions via the chat feature, and we have chat monitors who will direct those back to me at the end so that I can ask the panelists. Additionally, we will have a feedback form in the chat as well at the end of the session for you to provide feedback on the summit itself. All registrants were informed of a set of community norms in your welcome email. If you feel that these agreements aren't being met or you are feeling uncomfortable, please direct message the folks with an asterisk in front of their name so that we can assist. We are working to create brave spaces for conversations and will maintain a standard of respect as well as a space for growth. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let our panelists begin.
Okay, Charlotte Claybrook here, and I'm going to talk to you about reimagining safe routes to school from the Washington State Department of Transportation perspective. Here is a brief agenda for today. I'll give an overview of the program. I'll talk to you about why we are reimagining safe routes to school. I'll talk a little bit about the bicycle and pedestrian safety education program. Then we have some time for questions and discussion. We have some queued up questions for you. And if there's time here for a summary, I'll do that. And then we'll be handing it over for Carrie and Kaylin to talk about the network. So the purpose of the program is to eliminate all traffic crashes involving children walking or biking to school. Is to build connected networks of pedestrian and bicycle facilities for children that are within 2 miles of school. And this could be kindergarten through 12th grade. It's also to increase the number of children who walk and bike to school. The funding can be used for linear pedestrian facilities, linear bicycle facilities, crossing improvements, speed management treatments, and education and encouragement activities. The Safe Routes to School program is funded by both federal and state funds. We have an estimated 19 million per biennium. And we were fortunate this last biennium to get an additional 5 million added to that. So we were able to fund further down the list than expected, which was great. But the long-term budget does still indicate that we have about 19 million for the future. It's open to all public agencies in Washington State. And there is a link there for information about the program and details. Wow, sorry. Okay, quick question, just so I can get an idea about who is with us today. Could you raise your hand if the answer to this question is yes? Do you work for or represent a potential applicant for a Safe Routes to School award? And feel free to write in the chat if you prefer to do it that way. And so I am going to ask Carrie if you can see raised hands, and you can give me a number, because apparently I don't see that as a presenter.
It looks like we have about 5 folks raising their hands so far, and then a couple people in the chat. The number keeps going up to 6 and 7 folks raising their hands in the chat. Okay, all right, great, helpful. So the program itself runs on a biennial cycle. That's once every 2 years. On the even years, there's a call for projects. We always do a webinar. We do presentations at conferences. We'll put information about it in the newsletter. We put information out there in email messages, and just try to get the word out to as many eligible applicants as possible. We have public agencies in our tribes that submit applications. Sometimes in the past, we've had schools or school districts, and as public agencies, they're eligible as well. And then we have a competitive review process. And that review process includes both an internal review of the application materials we get back, and external review committee that help us with that process. Following that, we have site visits to those projects that tend to be up in the top 50% of prioritization based on the quantitative information. And once we've done those site visits and clarify the program, we get a prioritized list together. We include that with our regular report to the legislature and send it over them there for them to consider. On the odd years, we are able to award projects because we get our budget back in the odd years. We do an analysis of collisions as well as demographics, and look at potential applicants that haven't participated in the past, and try to identify local agencies, public agencies that could benefit from some outreach. And then we'll go out and we'll provide information to them. Now, at this point, I want to have a call out to say we do have a sister program to Safe Routes to School, and much of how we run the Safe Routes to School program is similar for the pedestrian and bicycle safety program. So as I talk about potential changes to Safe Routes to School, that'll be true for the pedestrian and bicycle program as well. The review criteria that we've used in the past are here. We've looked at safety, equity, value, project quality, and deliverability. We'll probably be using something similar. Again, I haven't got the exact split here on purpose, and not the details at this point, because we're looking at making some changes. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of these, but not necessarily spend a lot of time on them. Now, why are we changing? Why? It's such a wonderful program. Well, it still will be a wonderful program. We are getting some legislative direction in our transportation budget. First off, we have a change that was established a few years ago, and this is that we consider high need areas as defined by the percentage of the children eligible to receive free and reduced price meals when evaluating our projects. We do use that, we have, and we've also looked at census tract data for the pedestrian and bicycle program in particular. New legislative directive in the transportation budget is asking us to, in our annual report, which is due in December the 1st, that we include recommended changes to the pedestrian and bicycle safety program and safe routes to school for application and selection process to increase utilization by a greater diversity of jurisdictions. And also, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Active Transportation Plan 2020 and beyond, which was released earlier this year and is directing some changes to the program as well. So, here's another statute for greater equity, another change. The Health Equity for All Act, the HEAL Act, was passed in this last legislative session. We have a little bit more time to implement that, but as we think about changes that we might make to the program based on other direction, we want to be sure that it's consistent. So we're thinking about this too, getting an early start on it. Some of the key things there are to reduce environmental and health disparities in Washington, to improve health for all residents, to incorporate environmental justice principles into decision process, to provide technical assistance, and especially to agencies that haven't had past experience receiving grant funds, and to establish a goal of directing at least 40% of grants and expenditures to create environmental benefits to vulnerable populations and overburdened communities. So a couple of definitions here for the HEAL Act. Equitable distribution is a fair and just, but not necessarily equal allocation intended to mitigate disparities in benefits and burdens that are based on current conditions, including existing legacy and cumulative impacts. And I also wanted to give that definition for vulnerable population to you, population groups that are more likely to be at higher risk for poor health outcomes, to include but not be limited to racial and ethnic minorities and low-income populations. All right, now why are we making changes to the Safe Routes to School program? The way we've administer the education piece has been through a wonderful partnership with the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. They've applied for funds every cycle, gotten an award to do education. They administer the funding out all across all school districts around the state, are eligible to apply. They provide training, technical support, the funding for a fleet of bicycles, helmets, a storage trailer, anything that the schools or school districts need to provide safety education to middle school students, and a PE class. And the program was implemented in about 100 school districts across the state. That's about a third of all school districts, so that's pretty good. But OSPI has recently had to shift their focus as a result of COVID, and will no longer be administering this program. They've stepped back. So we're going to be looking for other ways to get education and encouragement out there with this program. I mentioned the Active Transportation Plan before. I just wanted to talk a little bit about key considerations before we go on to our questions. One key consideration is the driver's speed. And we're finding that most crashes are occurring at higher speed roads. So that's a priority for that plan. We're also prioritizing pedestrian crossings, where we're finding a lot of fatal and serious injury crashes occur when a pedestrian is trying to cross the street. We want to focus on population centers where most walking and biking occurs. And we also want to look at demand and consider that as destination density as opposed to demand, the number of people that are walking out and biking out there now, because some places may not be very welcoming for walking and biking. We're also having that focus on a safe system approach, and equity is one more thing that is very important in this plan. So now, I wanted to just let you know that we have had that focus on equity for a few years now. And in our last biennia, we got about 125 applications for the Safe Routes to School program. Of that, only 38% would have served high need equity areas. After going through the review process, we prioritized 31 applications, and 51% of those will serve high need equity areas. I've got the data there for the pedestrian and bicycle program. I'll let you take a look at that on your own. Again, a very important criteria for us, and we're going to continue to work on that. And the last thing I wanted to share with you, this is a very busy slide, is that our ask for funding, our requests for funding, is much higher than the amount of award that we're able to provide. This is a slide that shows a bar chart with data from 2005 up to 2023. In 2005, we only had about $1 million in our pilot project. And as you see, we got a request for up to 100 million, in almost 100 million in this last one, just for the Safe Routes to School program. So need and interest has definitely increased, which is great. And it does continue to be a competitive program. So in summary, right before we jump into our questions, we're hoping to increase utilization of the program by a greater diversity of jurisdictions. We want to provide an equitable, fair and just, but not necessarily equal distribution of the funds in the program. And we want to really focus on that safe systems approach. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions. I'm going to let Carrie explain where we're going from here. But before you do, Carrie, this is not the only way that we're going to get information about this. So if you feel a little uncomfortable about sharing now, there will be a survey coming out in a couple of weeks or so that we'll hope people will be able to respond to as well. But this is a great way to get better quality data, detail. So here goes. Carrie?
Yeah, thank you, Charlotte. So we were going to use Miro, but we're using a program called Mural because we found there is no registration required. So you're going to be seeing, I'm going to do a quick tutorial for those who have not used it of how to do it, but it's essentially a virtual whiteboard where you'll be placing comments on. Also, we'll have like different interactive components where you might vote on something. And your comments are anonymous if you want them to be. So when you click on this link that I'll be sending to you, you don't have it yet, you could choose to be completely anonymous, or you can have your name, but your name doesn't stay associated with your comment necessarily. It's just we can kind of tell who's moving around and adding stuff. The one thing is it's not compatible with Internet Explorer. So it works with everything else but Internet Explorer. And if you don't want to use Mural, or it doesn't work for you for whatever reason, Kaylin will be monitoring the chat. So if you write it in the chat, she'll try to capture it and place it on the whiteboard. But of course, we'll see it on the chat, but to make sure it's kind of included, you'll be in the whiteboard. So Charlotte, can you stop sharing your screen so that I may share mine?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, let's do a quick tutorial here. So I'll be showing you a link and you'll see something like this, which seems a little overwhelming at first, but I'm going to be hiding things from you so that we make sure that you comment on the questions we want you to comment on. So we'll be going to the first question, but I just want to show you that when you come in, you can change your Zoom settings. So if you're on an iPad or you prefer using your hands, you can, or you can use your mouse, and that's down here. And then also over here, you'll see this is how you can add sticky notes, or you could just add text. If you want to get creative, add some shapes or connections, you can. This is where icons are located, and we'll be asking you to use those at some point. This one you don't really need to worry about. This one is if you want to get creative and add some images, work appropriate. I don't know how good the filter is, so be kind. And that's about it for these tools. And then if you wanted to draw, you can. We'll have different things, but like I said, I think that's kind of it. That's the overview. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And then we'll give folks a few minutes to come in, and you'll see that Charlotte's in. She's chosen to have her name so I can see who she is, but other people may not, and that's fine.
Okay, shall I get started with the questions?
I think we need a few more minutes because we need a couple more people in.
Okay,
Or not minutes, that sounded, that was too plural. We need enough.
There we go. I think we got it now to everyone.
Okay, thank you, thank you. That was the problem. That was my fault. I sent it to just the panelists. There we go. There we go. So everyone's getting comfortable. And right now you'll see there's a, we can see everybody's names. Shortly, I'm going to turn that off because that could be a little bit overwhelming, but it's a little fun at first to see people,
So many visiting animals. It's exciting.
okay, I'm gonna move on because we're short of time here if we don't. So this first question, this is, what do you believe would make it difficult for a city, county, or tribe to apply for Safe Routes to School funding? Go ahead and grab one of the sticky notes and put that in and write in what you think might make it difficult for city, county, or tribe to apply for funding.
And I'm trying to say you can double click to add a Post-it note, or you can grab one over here. Just, I forgot to state that. And if you zoom in, it doesn't zoom in everybody else's screen. So you zoom in as far as you need to feel comfortable and see what's being written, or zoom out.
All right, great. Thanks everybody for adding inputs. Love the different colors. Got some different shapes in there. I'm gonna go ahead and move us, Carrie, now to the next question. And will this question remain open so that people can add to this if they'd like to add more comments?
Yes, it'll remain open.
Okay.
You ready for your next one?
I'm ready for the next question.
All right, here we go.
Yay. Okay, so this one is more of a multiple choice, and want you to respond multiple way. You can answer as many that apply to you as you like. And this is for those who participating on the call who are working for or associated with an agency that could apply for funds. Would you be more likely to apply if funding were set aside for agencies, projects,
with certain characteristics. Indicate interest by placing an icon next to the criteria. And so on that bar, the toolbar on the left-hand side, the icons are indicated by the star. So if you see the star, you can click on that, open it up. There's a lot of different icons in there, and you can choose one or another, and then just drop it in where you feel there is your way to answer this question. Sorry, I'm thinking and I'm moving at the same time. It's such a challenge. All right, good. Getting some input there. Great. Trying to make them a little bigger. Some are coming in quite small.
For folks who might not want to be using the board, feel free to either chat me as everyone or me directly, and or the host and panelists, and I'm happy to add in an icon for you where you would like.
All right, great. We're going to go ahead and move to the next question.
You're okay, Charlotte. Give it a little bit more time. We're okay.
Okay.
Just one more minute to let folks get caught up, because I think some people are still kind of acclimating to the feel.
Okay. I see that there's a lot of responses in that category for separate categories for high cost or low cost projects. So this would be a set aside for a certain number of projects that would be high cost or low cost. Very interesting. Yeah. And now feel free if this generates a question for you, or you're interested in adding more of a statement, put in a sticky note in that comment section about what you're thinking about the responses we're seeing, or any questions you might have about it. Great.
Nice. And you're getting a lot of comments over the application challenges too, which is fantastic.
Great, great. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question.
All right, let me end this.
Question number 3.
Question number 3. Sorry, I need to show it.
And you, I think it's okay to keep question 2 available for people to see if they want to keep thinking about that. So question number 3, and these are 3 questions I put in here together to generate thoughts and questions. Some of them are yes or no, and for everybody to respond to, and they're all about lowering speed limits. So the first question here is, what keeps you from applying for funds to lower speed limits in your community? And just sort of some background information. We recognize that infrastructure, linear improvements like sidewalks are cornerstone for the program, but safety is really important too. So we want to see safety projects come forward. And in the last round, we saw very few of those. So just wondering. That middle question is really for everybody. Would you personally drive a lower speed? And then that third question kind of goes along with that. Would you support lowering the speeds, posted speed on the roads in your community? So these are places where you walk, maybe by your home, the grocery store, places where you drive, work, whatever it might be. Are you comfortable with seeing lower speeds? Great. Getting some good input. So I hope you guys are having fun with this. I am loving watching you put your answers in as we go. Love the way that this is colorful and interesting. Okay, I think that responses are starting to slow down a bit. I'm gonna have us go ahead and move over to the next question, which is question 4. And again, you can keep answering, adding information as we go along. And so, Carrie, when you get a chance to make question 4 available to us. There we go. Now, these are questions about equity consideration, and I really want you to start with that first question, and use your icons to answer yes, no, or unsure. Are there segments of your community where there are safe routes to school needs and higher percentages of people of color, low-income households, or people with disabilities? So, thinking about what you know about your community, help us better understand what the expectation is out there, what the possibilities are.
We're working on it.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question. If you haven't answered that first one, you can go ahead and put your check mark over there. What might encourage agencies in your community to prioritize the location and apply for a safe routes to school improvement there? And I see some people are helping to answer the question in the chat box, so that's awesome. If you haven't joined the Mural, thanks for doing that. And thanks for Kaylin for helping out with getting them in the right place. I'm going to read the next question. What are some ways to be sure to include people of color, people living in low-income households, people with a Hispanic heritage, and or people with disabilities in safe routes to school project planning development efforts? So maybe some examples of what you've seen. If you answer to one of these categories, then like what would help you be more interested in participating in a process? What are things that work to get more input? To have them be a part of the process. Good input. Wow, thank you. Wow, this is great. Okay, I don't want to slow you down too much, but I do have a timeline here. So, Carrie, can you go ahead and open that next question for us? This is the last one, so yay. This too is a 3-part question. It's about education and encouragement, and similar to the last, we have that first setup where you use an icon to vote yes, no, or unsure. Would it be a barrier for your agency to apply if education activities were a required element along with the infrastructure projects for the program? We have a history of the program many, many years ago where we did it this way. This was before OSPR started to do the work that they did. So let us know. I'm going to go ahead and ask this next question, and this is sort of opening it up for everybody to participate. What are your priorities for education and encouragement programs? What would you like to see happen out there? What do you think are great, successful things? And then that last question I'll go ahead and ask, so you have some time to think about it. Do you know of partners to help with education and encouragement? And these are partners in your community. All right, go ahead and keep answering the questions there. And again, if you want to go back to a previous question, that would be fine too. All right, super. So I will ask again, these are my questions for you today to help generate some involvement and input. Do my questions sort of stimulate questions from you back to me that you might want to ask about what we're thinking and where we might go with these changes? And if yes, go ahead and put that in the chat, or grab a sticky note, throw it up there. If you're really digging the sticky note thing, I'm not sure where to put it, but yeah. Okay, all right. So not hearing any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and have Carrie stop sharing. I'll share my screen again and wrap this up, and then I'll hand it back over. All right. So I have to move my cursor down to the last slide. There it was, almost. Just a summary of potential changes. We have some established things that we do, current practices, focusing on safety that are fatal and serious injury crashes. And that was really spot locations, trying to be sure that if there was a place where there had been a crash, we were investing funding there. And now we're sort of shifting to this level of traffic stress and the safe system approach, and really having an emphasis on speed limit reduction. This is the potential change. I shouldn't say we are, but this is where we're headed. Very few applications focus on equity in the past, so we want to lower barriers for submitting projects where there's high equity needs. We have in the past had multiple deliverability measures that we've looked at for review, and we want to reduce that and better fine tune what it means to deliver a project and how we think about that. We want to have a shift with the project quality, still focusing on research and crash modification factors, but also being very site specific with that. And then looking for changes to our education and encouragement. We're not sure quite where to go from here, but we have had that school curriculum. This is my contact information, and I've got contact information for Barb Chamberlain there too, the director of our division, and Brian Wood, who is our point person for the pedestrian and bicycle program. Carrie, I'm gonna send this back over to you and Kaylin to talk about the network.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlotte. And so I just want to flag that we're going to save questions for the end. I know we have about 10 minutes until, or 10 minutes of questions at the end, it sounds like. So Carrie and I will go through our spiel, and then if we have time, do another interactive activity. So hello, my name is Kaylin Henley. I use she or they pronouns, and I am a senior planner with Alta Planning and Design. And I'm joined by Carrie Wilhelm, senior planner with the City of Tacoma, and we are here on behalf of the Washington Safe Routes to School Network. We're super excited to share about this Reimagining network with you. So the Washington State Safe Routes to School Network is composed of people working in Safe Routes to School as practitioners or advocates across Washington. We come from public agencies, the private sector, and volunteer organizations, gathering together and united by our passion for safe routes, student safety and wellness, and active transportation. Some of you may have been familiar with the Washington Safe Routes School Action Network that Pete first helped to lead several years ago. And this network is re-emerging from that original effort and then shifting focus to really be focusing on consolidating and offering free Washington specific resources on our website, identifying safe routes to school practitioners across the state, and then being able to connect people in their regions and across the state as well. Providing and promoting Washington State specific safe routes to school solutions and educational events. And then also we're brainstorming, how would we offer networking opportunities for safe routes to school practitioners across the state. And so a couple examples of what we've done so far is a few months ago, we offered a 2-part webinar series on traffic gardens, of like how to get down to like the nitty gritty of implementing a traffic garden or a traffic playground, and various ways to do so across Washington State, looking at some examples. So we are looking to grow together across the state. So please sign up for our monthly newsletter at washingtonsaferoutes.org. On that homepage, you'll find a place to sign up, and I will, Carrie, do you mind putting that in the chat? And then also you can check out our resources on that webpage as well, or website as well. Second, if you're a local practitioner and you want to be showcased on the website as someone to connect with, or if you want to showcase your program, we have a map that we'd like to grow. So please fill out the survey on our website. It's under the Connect tab. And then if you'd like to help lead any efforts, please email us. We have an email set up. We would love to have your energy in helping connect folks and bring ideas, resources, and opportunities to each other as we look to advance safe routes in Washington State. So with that brief presentation, we are going to do another activity, and we're going to condense our activity. So I'm going to hand the presentation over to Carrie to speak on what we are going to do.
All right, so I won't go through the tutorial because it's the same idea, and thank you for being patient through some of our little technical challenges as we're working through this, so I appreciate that. So I'll be sending another link in the chat, and then this will be asking questions specific for the network. We are a small but mighty group, and hopefully some of you will be interested to join us as we try to strengthen and grow this network. I did it to everyone this time. And there we are. So our first question that we have for you is, let's start off positive. So as a parent, as an advocate, as someone who works in the school district, what is working? What have you seen has brought joy? What have you seen that makes it so more people walk and bike? Like, it's just that positive. I mean, Safe Routes to School touches on so many different things. And so it's just, what is positive about Safe Routes to School? So for example, I love bike rodeos, right? And that's a very positive experience every time I do it. So what is the positive first that's working? Positive, my bus driver person. How about the positive is that we have people willing to be bus drivers? And then, yeah, the lack of bus drivers is a concern.
Feel free to use the chat and send them my way so that I can make sure to add your comments.
I know there's more positive, but I will. I'm a Safe Routes to School coordinator for Tacoma, and I fill my bucket when I go to a school and work with kids, because I think a lot of people on the call are fighting the good fight. So make sure to go out and be with the kids. They inspire hope for sure. Well, let's go to the challenges for our time. So keep going positive. We want to hear it. But what are the challenges you found? Where are we struggling with Safe Routes to School? What hasn't worked? And it could be anything. And why we're asking you this as network people, of people who do this, is as we move forward, we want to know where it is you care, what you want to focus on, so that we can do a webinar that might address something like this, that we can maybe work with our statewide partners to try to figure out a solution, that hopefully we could get OSPI back and working with all of us once, you know, a pandemic trickles away, hopefully. Visiting Rabbit, I'm going to not follow you just now. Yes, schools that forbid walking and biking to school. It's a thing. And I appreciate these comments out there, because of course funding is always an issue, but funding for sure at every level, district, city, state. But there's other things as well. For me, in my role too, crossing guards, right? It's hard to find crossing guards right now. And finally, and please keep commenting, but what we'd like to know, and this is a good old-fashioned sticky poll, is right now this is what we are able to do, and at some point hopefully we can grow and we can offer more as a network, but out of these options, how should we focus our time, in our energy, how can we best support with what we have right now? And let us know what you're interested in, please. And it can be everything. It could be hopefully not nothing. And then if there's anything that we're forgetting that you're like, this is a way that would really be helpful, that doesn't take money or much money, please add a note. And we are interested in doing another webinar. I want to take this time to thank the Washington Traffic Safety Commission, who made it possible that we could bring in an outside guest speaker for the Traffic Garden webinar. They have provided funding for that, and then for our website as well. So little wins, the support's out there. We just need to all come together. So if there's a webinar you're interested in, a topic, One we've talked about is maybe automated enforcement or lowering speeds, but let us know too if there's something you're interested in. I like that, local success stories. Yes. Quarterly newsletter, all right. And a quarterly networking meeting. We can do this, Charlotte, Kaylin, we got this. And Mandy. I've wondered that, the grant application technical assistance, especially given, Charlotte, you trying to have people who are first-time applicants or haven't been able to have barriers to getting help. All right, well, this is a passion thing, so I could go forever, but we want to make sure we have time for comments. So I'll leave this open, but I'm going to stop sharing this, but please continue to comment. And thank you so much for commenting. And hand it over to Rachel for questions. And
All right. Thanks to you three for using, you fit so much in less than 50 minutes. So congrats on that. And also I was very cool to see the interactive element to this presentation. So like lots of kudos for figuring out what Mural is, because I've never heard of it before and really enjoyed watching everybody participate. So I hope everybody in the audience enjoyed that as well, whether you were giving answers in the chat or putting them directly onto the sticky notes. So we have a couple questions coming in that came in earlier, actually. I think this first one, we got two questions around the same matter, might be best for Charlotte. And that's that I believe that this person is referring to Safe Routes to School program and the Bike and Pedestrian program. And they're asking, why are there two programs that are so similar? Could they be merged or have a parallel application and review processes so that there's not two of them? Sorry, you're muted.
So in answer to your question, we do merge them as well as we can to reduce administrative burden. Same questions, same review process, same criteria. The legislature calls them out as two different programs. It's not our call to say it, to just say it's going to be one. It's up to them. So as long as they continue to want to have that as two separate programs, it'll continue in that way. And in some ways that's really good, because that really puts that emphasis on safe routes to school, which I think is so important that we not forget making improvements near the schools so that the children can get to and from school by walking or biking.
All right. And let's see. I feel like any of you could answer this, but maybe I'll pass it to Carrie first. Are there proven projects that can be granted without the local entity needing to design it on their own?
I think that's actually Charlotte.
Oh, that's Charlotte. Okay.
It's good,
Charlotte.
So one of the things that happens now is a local agency will connect with a consulting firm that will be able to put together a project for them and help them with the application. This is especially true for smaller communities where they will hire a consultant, or not hire, but there's a pro bono for the consultant that comes in to help them. So that's one of the ways that that gets done. And it's not just the staff at the city or the county that have to put in the hours to make it happen.
Gotcha. And I also wanted to note there's some responses coming in through the chat as well. People actually on Charlotte's team or others with knowledge of this, and they are saying that whether this is more or less confusing, that there are other grants available that can also be used for improvements around schools. And so you can ask your city or county if they have a safety plan. And like the TIB funding is one example. The Transportation Improvement Board is an example of another funding source that does somewhat similar things. So like I said, whether that means more applications or less, that just to note for everybody that there are a variety of funding sources that might be able to fill a need that you have in mind. And let's see, I think I have, well, Kaylin noted this in the, sorry, I'm going back and forth between the chat and my own document. Kaylin already noted this in the mural, but I think I just wanted to call out someone asking about awarding a standard crossing improvement without some of the difficulties of going through the entire grant. I think it's like going towards like maybe a standard solution for things, so that it maybe is less of a question and more of a comment, but it's been noted in the mural on top of other things. And I think with that, we're almost wrapped up on time anyways. Thank you everybody again for your comments, whether it was on the application or in the chat. It looks like there's a lot of conversation happening and resources being shared out there. I want to call out that we have a happy hour / networking event coming up at 5:30, and that the passcode for that has been distributed through your email, or you can check our event site where you can see all of the events and presentations that we have this week. And then our next session will be tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is Organizing Bicyclists for Climate Action. Furthermore, we have checked the chat for another link. This is to our Google form to submit feedback on the summit itself. And wow, I through that a little quicker than I expected, but we're done 2 minutes early. So thank you again to the panelists. I think this is a creative, awesome way to present this information and get feedback from people in real time. And also thank you for everybody for participating. So have a good evening.
Well,
Thank you so much.
I would draw people's attention to that last chat from Barb about the active transportation part 2. It's an opportunity for people to comment on that. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Yeah, good call out.
Thanks.
All right, thanks everybody.